April 12, 1961. The Western Pacific Ocean, 140 nautical miles northeast of Vladivostok. Inside the control room of the USS Growler, the air was thick and stale, saturated with the acrid scent of diesel fuel mingling with the sweat of the crew. The depth gauge indicated 200 feet, a stark reminder of their submerged reality, while the sub cruised at a modest speed of 4 knots. The course was set due north, steering them directly into the heart of the Soviet Far Eastern Fleet's primary operational territory. 3 days prior, encrypted communications had arrived, crystal clear in their directive: demonstrate American reach. The mission was simple yet fraught with peril. Prove that a cruise missile submarine could linger undetected within striking distance of Soviet Pacific bases. The nuclear missiles, nestled securely in their twin hangars on Growler's deck, could rain down destruction on Vladivostok in a mere 12 minutes. This chilling calculation loomed over the crew, defining their very existence beneath the waves. In the quiet hum of routine, the sonar operator adjusted his headset, logging yet another hour of silence. It was the kind of stillness that felt almost deceptive, a calm before an impending storm. Suddenly, a blip appeared on passive sonar, the sound of individual propeller blades slicing through the water, sending a jolt through the operator's hand. He keyed the intercom, his voice steady but strained, reporting something that defied belief. A Soviet destroyer was nearby, operating in a deliberate search pattern, not the haphazard sweeps of a training exercise or the wide arcs dictated by anti-submarine warfare doctrine. No, this was a calculated box search, centered precisely on their location. The commanding officer approached the sonar station, each step deliberate, each breath heavy with foreboding. He scrutinized the bearing, the range, and the tactical plot, detailing Growler's course over the last 6 hours. The mathematics were indisputable. The Soviet ship was searching for them in the exact spot they occupied. A wave of dread washed over him, tightening his stomach. They had adhered strictly to emissions control: no radar, no active sonar, no transmissions of any kind. For 72 hours, they had been a ghost in the ocean. Yet, here was a Soviet destroyer, hunting them with an unsettling precision that implied an intimate knowledge of their whereabouts. A voice broke the tension, the weapons officer quietly suggesting that perhaps they were merely witnessing a coincidence. The commanding officer clung to this notion, though doubt gnawed at him. He ordered a course alteration 30 degrees to port and a reduction in speed to 3 knots. If this truly was a coincidence, the destroyer would continue its search pattern without deviation. If not, they would discover the truth within 20 minutes. As they crept westward, the sonar operator meticulously tracked the destroyer's movements, recording each detail on grease pencil-marked sheets. 15 minutes slipped by, tension building with each passing second. Then, the destroyer turned, initiating a new search pattern, one that was eerily centered on Growler's current position. The game of cat and mouse had begun, the stakes impossibly high, and the ocean, once a sanctuary, had transformed into a treacherous battleground. The stark, fluorescent lights above, his heart still racing from the tension of the encounter beneath the waves. This was not just any mission. It was a delicate dance of power and precision, where each move could tip the scales between peace and conflict. As he recounted the events to the brass gathered around the polished table, the weight of his words hung heavy in the air. The destroyer had been relentless, an unseen specter prowling the depths. It was a game of cat and mouse, but the stakes were dangerously high. The commanding officer recalled the heat, that had crept up his neck, a visceral reminder of the tension that had permeated the vessel. The order to change course had been issued with a steely resolve, but the fear of detection loomed larger. The destroyer, a formidable opponent, had maintained its position with an unsettling accuracy, tracking Growler as if it were a mere shadow in the depths. The atmosphere had shifted, transformed from one of routine patrol to a charged silence, where every whisper was laden with urgency. Men moved with an instinctual grace, their training kicking in as they prepared for the worst. In the torpedo room, the crew loaded the tubes with a quiet determination. The air was thick with anticipation, and the calculations for a firing solution danced through the minds of the fire control team. They were prepared, but hope lingered that such drastic measures would remain unneeded. The idea of engaging a Soviet vessel in peacetime was a ghost that haunted their every thought, a specter of nuclear annihilation. As the minutes ticked by, the tension morphed into a palpable force, pressing against the hull of the submarine. Growler slipped through the thermal layers, an elegant phantom navigating the dark embrace of the Pacific. But the Distruto found its prey. The Soviet captain was playing a game of psychological warfare, a bold display of confidence that sent ripples of unease through Growler's crew. At precisely 19:30 hours, the commanding officer made a choice that would define the mission. He ordered the submarine to dive deeper, to slip into the shadows at 400 feet, where the silence of the ocean would cloak them. The plan was to abort the patrol, to retreat back to safety, where they could file a report that would inevitably lead to more questions than answers. The descent was a surrender of sorts, a quiet admission of the precarious balance they navigated. As Growlers sank deeper, the sonar operator's voice broke through the tension, reporting the destroyer's retreat. It was a small victory, but a telling one. The destroyer had made its point, demonstrating its knowledge and power without the need for aggression. It had sent a clear message that resonated through the depths, and the implications of that encounter would echo long after the waves settled. 3 days later, as Growlers surfaced off the coast of Oahu, the world above felt both familiar and foreign. The sun casting bright reflections on the water's surface. The encrypted message sent to comm subpack was a lifeline, a desperate call for clarity in the wake of uncertainty. Every detail of the encounter was meticulously documented, each word chosen with care, knowing that the ramifications of their actions would ripple through the corridors of power. By 1000 hours on April 17, 1961, the commanding officer found himself seated in a secure conference room, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. The faces around him reflected a mix of concern and curiosity, each one aware that the story he was about to tell would shape their understanding of the delicate balance between two superpowers, poised on the brink of conflict. As he prepared to share the harrowing details of their encounter, the shadows of the ocean lingered in his mind, a haunting reminder of the silent battles fought beneath the waves. A clandestine meeting unfolds in a dimly lit room, the atmosphere thick with tension and uncertainty. 4 naval intelligence officers, their expressions etched with gravity, sit opposite a commanding officer. Beside them, 2 civilian men, their identities shrouded in mystery, silently observe the proceedings. The officers demand a detailed account, and the commanding officer complies, recounting every detail of their recent operations. Questions flow with relentless precision. Had he transmitted sensitive information? No. Could any crew member have compromised their position? Again, no. The officers meticulously document his responses in leather-bound notebooks, the sound of pens scratching against paper echoing ominously in the quiet room. One of the civilians, breaking the silence, probes into the realm of the bizarre. Did the commanding officer believe in Soviet mind reading? The officer, grounded in reality, counters with a firm declaration. He believes in facts. Yet the facts themselves are disconcerting. A Soviet destroyer had tracked their movements with an accuracy that defied logic. With the civilians departing without a word, the intelligence officers remain, their focus shifting to a top-secret file. They spread 5 photographs across the conference table, each an unsettling testament to a growing enigma. The images depict American submarines: USS Tani in the Sea of Japan, USS Barbaro off the Kamchatka Peninsula, USS Greyback near the Kuril Islands, and USS Halibut approaching the Arctic Circle. Yet, it is not the submarines that command attention, but rather the Soviet responses captured in each frame. Destroyers, frigate groups, and IL-38 maritime patrol aircraft mobilizing with an unsettling precision, as if privy to the submarine's every move. The timeline is chilling. These occurrences unfolded between November 1960 and March 1961, a pattern that is both undeniable and deeply troubling. The regular missile submarines, designed for stealth, were being tracked consistently, systematically. The senior intelligence officer, Captain Morrison, exhaled a cloud of smoke from his cigarette, pondering a question that loomed heavy in the air. How were the Soviets locating vessels engineered to be undetectable? Silence enveloped the room as the commanding officer grappled with the question. The Navy had explored every conceivable explanation. In 1961, satellite reconnaissance was still in its infancy, incapable of detecting submerged submarines from orbit. Human intelligence was a possibility, but the classified nature of patrol ESI's locations at any moment. Acoustic detection seemed equally implausible. The submarines operated on diesel-electric engines, running on batteries during patrols, rendering them quieter than any other naval asset. The Soviets, lacking advanced sonar technology, were presumed to be at a disadvantage. If anyone should be hearing anyone, it was the American vessels listening for their Soviet counterparts. Yet the unsettling pattern continued, a total of 5 confirmed instances of impossible tracking within a mere 6 months. Morrison extinguished his cigarette, the word he uttered next casting a long shadow over the meeting. Magic. A term that evoked discomfort among the gathered officers, hinting at the inexplicable nature of their predicament. As the briefing drew to a close, instructions were issued with a sense of urgency. The commanding officer was to maintain silence regarding the encounter with his crew, adhering to standard operational debriefing protocols. Preparations commenced for the next patrol of the USS Growler, a mission fraught with uncertainty. This time, however, they would be armed with additional electronic surveillance equipment, a desperate attempt to uncover the secrets lurking beneath the surface. The stakes had never been higher, and the shadows of the unknown loomed larger than ever. In the depths of the ocean, a silent battle raged beneath the waves, where the stakes were as high as the tensions between superpowers. The Navy's mission was clear: to meticulously document every activation of systems, every course adjustment, every depth change. This data would serve as a crucial lifeline, a testament to the unseen maneuvers of Soviet forces lurking in the depths. Each transmission, each encounter, was a thread woven into a complex tapestry of espionage and strategy. As the commanding officer returned to his submarine, the weight of unspoken truths pressed heavily upon him. His crew, brave and dedicated, deserved to know the reality of their perilous role, a role that painted them as bait in a larger game of cat and mouse. Yet the shackles of classification bound him, forcing him to frame their mission as one of importance, a facade that masked the lurking dangers beneath the surface. The ocean's depths were a realm of uncertainty, where depth charges could shatter the hull of the Growler at any moment. Meanwhile, in Moscow, the atmosphere was charged with a different kind of anticipation. Within the unremarkable walls of the Soviet Naval Intelligence Directorate, just a stone's throw from the Kremlin, a captain of second rank immersed himself in the latest intelligence reports. On April 20, 1961, he unraveled a dossier detailing encounters between Soviet naval forces and their American counterparts in the vast Pacific expanse. Among these reports, the April 12th intercept of an American missile submarine operating northeast of Vladivostok stood out, igniting a spark of satisfaction within him. The destroyer captain had executed the tracking flawlessly, maintaining contact with the elusive American vessel even as it attempted to evade detection. He had skillfully navigated the delicate balance of demonstrating Soviet capabilities without escalating tensions into a full-blown conflict. The American submarine, realizing it was no longer the predator, had retreated into the depths, a retreat that echoed the very essence of the strategy at play. The captain's mission was clear: to instill doubt in the hearts of American submariners, to make them question their technological superiority. Each encounter was a calculated maneuver, a reminder that the waters they once considered their own were now contested grounds. The captain meticulously added the April 12th incident to a growing file, a compendium of victories that told a story of Soviet prowess. Item 1 was a testament to tactical success. On November 8, 1960, the destroyer Bestrashny intercepted an American submarine in the Sea of Japan, maintaining contact for a staggering 40 minutes before the American vessel dove deep and retreated. Item 2 detailed a frigate group that had boxed in the submarine Barbaro off the coast of Kamchatka, forcing it to abandon its patrol after just 11 days. Item 3 highlighted the prowess of IL-38 Maritime Patrol aircraft, which had tracked the Greyback for 6 hours, dropping practice depth charges to showcase capability without engaging in direct confrontation. Item 4 documented a coordinated destroyer sweep that had shadowed the halibut for an impressive 90 kilometers near the Arctic Circle. Each entry echoed a pattern, a reflection of Soviet forces arriving at precisely the right moment, while American submarines evaded and ultimately withdrew into the unknown. The tactical implications of these encounters were profound, reverberating through the corridors of power. The captain, energized by the successes, carried the file to his superior, a rear admiral responsible for orchestrating anti-submarine warfare strategies for the Pacific Fleet. In silence, the admiral reviewed the encounters, weighing the significance of each detail. The tension mounted, the air thick with the weight of uncharted waters and the looming specter of conflict. The ocean, a vast and unforgiving frontier, held secrets and dangers, and the delicate balance of power hung precariously in the depths below. A seasoned veteran of the Great Patriotic War, he had once navigated the murky depths of the ocean as a submarine officer. He possessed an intimate understanding of the psyche of men who fought within the cold, steel confines of submarines, submerged beneath the waves. For him, the reports flooding in were not mere documents. They were harbingers of a looming threat, an urgent signal of peril hovering over Soviet strategic stability. These American submarines, their hulls sleek and menacing, posed a real danger. Each vessel bore 2 nuclear-tipped cruise missiles, each missile capable of reaching targets 500 nautical miles away. They could rain destruction upon Soviet cities, naval bases, and command centers with a swiftness that left little room for reprisal. For 2 long years, Soviet intelligence grappled with the daunting task of countering this threat. Efforts to enhance sonar arrays, expand aerial patrols, and bolster destroyer deployments yielded little success. The Americans proved too adept at evasion, their cunning and stealth rendering them nearly undetectable. But then, a shift occurred. The admiral could not pinpoint the exact moment of transformation. The files offered no clarity. However, beginning in late 1960, a remarkable change unfolded as Soviet forces began to achieve consistent tracking success against their elusive American counterparts. The encounters were imperfect, with American submarines still managing to escape. Yet, they were being discovered in zones where they should have remained invisible. This newfound success could not be attributed to the conventional advancements in Soviet technology. The admiral meticulously reviewed the sonar performance reports, each one a testament to the inferiority of their equipment compared to their American rivals. The source of this tracking capability had to be something else, a novel intelligence breakthrough that defied explanation. In the intricate web of the Soviet system, some truths were better left unexamined. What mattered most were the results. American missile submarines were being pushed from their forward patrol areas, their nuclear deterrent capabilities steadily eroding. This was a victory, albeit a quiet one, in a conflict waged not in the open, but in the shadows. With a decisive stroke, the admiral authorized increased patrols in the Western Pacific and allocated additional destroyers for anti-submarine warfare. Intelligence officers were tasked with crafting protocols for aggressive tracking of American missile submarines, all while carefully avoiding the brink of direct confrontation. The aim was psychological: instill fear in the hearts of the Americans, make them hesitate to operate near Soviet shores, and sow doubt about their perceived invulnerability. Every successful intercept echoed a powerful message, a reminder that even the mightiest could be challenged. Each forced withdrawal was a small triumph in a war fought in silence and fraught with trepidation. Yet, the admiral remained stoic. Having battled the Americans for so long, he understood the fleeting nature of advantages. The very capability that had empowered Soviet forces could vanish as abruptly as it had emerged. But for the moment, it was working. That fleeting sense of success, however precarious, had to suffice. The American response unfolded with a swiftness that caught Moscow off guard. In the month of May 1961, the USS Growler embarked on yet another deterrent patrol, this time equipped with an elite team of signals intelligence specialists and cutting-edge electronic monitoring technology. The mission extended over a span of 18 days. During this period, Soviet destroyers managed to locate the Growler on 2 separate occasions. Yet each time, the American submarine deftly evaded capture, resolutely continuing its mission instead of retreating into the safety of the depths. The second encounter proved particularly tense, lasting an arduous 3 hours. It was during this standoff that Growler's signals intelligence team intercepted a torrent of Soviet naval communications, revealing a troubling narrative. The destroyers appeared to be receiving targeting information from an external source, an ominous signal that sent ripples of concern through the halls of power in Washington. The intercepted transmissions were encrypted and alarmingly brief, leaving the intelligence team unable to decrypt them in real time. Nonetheless, a clear pattern emerged. Someone, or something, was guiding Soviet ships to the whereabouts of American submarines. This revelation ignited alarm bells, prompting the Office of Naval Intelligence to mobilize a special task force, designated as Operation Spoke, to delve deeper into this unsettling mystery. The task force left no stone unturned, scrutinizing every conceivable explanation for this breach. They explored the possibility of a high-level Soviet infiltration of the Command Submarine Force, COMSUBPAC. Satellite imagery was meticulously analyzed to ascertain whether Soviet reconnaissance capabilities had surpassed previous estimates. Acoustic data was reviewed to determine if Soviet sonar technology had achieved an unexpected breakthrough. Additionally, they examined radio frequency emissions to ensure that American submarines were not inadvertently broadcasting their positions. Yet, despite their exhaustive investigations, answers remained elusive. The human intelligence investigation yielded no evidence of penetration. Satellite analysis confirmed that Soviet orbital reconnaissance remained rudimentary. Acoustic data revealed that Soviet sonar technology was still lagging behind. The emissions analysis, too, returned nothing of consequence. American submarines maintained impeccable emissions control. Yet the unsettling truth remained. They were being tracked. As the investigation progressed, analysts began to entertain more exotic theories. Some speculated that Soviet submarines could be employing thermal weight detection, monitoring the minute temperature changes caused by a submarine's passage through the water. Others suggested the possibility of magnetic anomaly detection from aircraft. A few even ventured into the realm of the fantastical, proposing that the Soviets had developed a method of bioluminescence tracking, using glowing plankton disturbed by submarine hulls as a means of detection. These theories, while imaginative, failed to align with the observable facts. Thermal weights dissipated too rapidly to be reliable. Magnetic anomaly detection necessitated aircraft flying directly overhead, an impractical scenario. Bioluminescence tracking remained in the realm of speculative science, lacking any operational application. The task force, in their quest for clarity, instead found themselves burdened with an array of enigmas. By August 1961, the Office of Naval Intelligence was confronted with an unsettling conclusion. The Soviet Navy had either developed or acquired a submarine tracking capability that the American forces had not anticipated. The shadow of uncertainty loomed larger, as the balance of power in the underwater realm began to shift in ways that would challenge the very foundations of naval strategy. A chilling revelation echoed through the corridors of power as conventional analysis failed to unravel a mystery that threatened the very foundation of American naval strategy. The regular missile submarines, once thought to glide beneath the waves unnoticed, were now caught in a web of Soviet detection. This newfound capability forced the United States to reassess its operational tactics, pulling back patrol areas and shortening mission durations, a stark admission of vulnerability. The effectiveness of their fleet began to erode, all because Soviet forces had developed the uncanny ability to locate submarines that should have been cloaked in the depths, invisible to all but the most advanced detection methods. The implications of this discovery were staggering. If Soviet forces could track the conventional submarines, what would stop them from pinpointing the new Polaris ballistic missile submarines set to deploy in 1962? The entire American sea-based nuclear deterrent hung in the balance, threatened by a capability that could compromise its very essence before it even became operational. The stakes were monumental, demanding an urgent investigation, a commitment of resources, and a willingness to embrace risk. In response, a task force pivoted from analysis to active engagement. They were determined to decipher the Soviet tracking mechanism, probing whether the source of this capability lay in advanced technology or human ingenuity. It was vital to ascertain whether the Soviets had developed a method that could be counted upon, or if this represented a seismic shift in the realm of submarine warfare. The answers to these questions would shape the trajectory of American naval strategy for years to come. In October of 1961, the USS Growler embarked on a carefully orchestrated patrol, crafted to elicit a Soviet response. The submarine executed a high-visibility pattern, drawing the attention of Soviet forces only to vanish into the depths, commencing a complex evasion sequence. The mission was a calculated gamble. If the Soviets maintained their tracking through the evasion, it would confirm their real-time capabilities. Conversely, if they lost contact, it would unveil exploitable limitations. For 3 days, the Growler adhered to its predictable pattern, allowing Soviet forces to hone in on its location. But on the 4th day, the submarine plunged into the abyss, altering its course dramatically and plunging into silence. The crew held their breath, sonar straining to capture any sound, while electronic surveillance systems monitored Soviet communications for signs of pursuit. Time stretched. 6 hours passed, then 12, and still, the Soviet destroyers that had tailed the Growler vanished from detection. The evasion appeared successful, or so it seemed. On the 15th hour, a Soviet frigate materialized on sonar, executing a search pattern that zeroed in on the Growler's new position. Despite the submarine's maneuvers, the Soviets had recalibrated. They had lost contact momentarily, yet regained it with an alarming ease. The tracking capability was not just resilient, it was real-time, surpassing anything American intelligence had anticipated. The final report from the Growler's October patrol landed on ear not, in fact, invisible. They were ensnared by a capability that defied conventional explanation. The regular submarine program was compromised, and the Polaris initiative loomed on the horizon, potentially doomed before it even commenced. The specter of vulnerability cast a long shadow over the American naval strategy, ushering in a new era of uncertainty and peril on the high seas. The Soviet Navy accomplished what American strategists had deemed impossible. They discovered a method to pierce the depths of the ocean, unveiling secrets hidden beneath the waves. As the investigation escalated, the Pentagon became a hive of frantic activity. Resources poured in, analysts scoured every fragment of data, and desperate theories emerged, ranging from satellites to spies, and even arcane physics that defied comprehension. Yet, the intercepts persisted. Soviet destroyers emerged with unnerving precision, surfacing in the exact locations and at the precise moments that American forces had deemed secure. In the hushed, fortified conference rooms beneath the Pentagon, seasoned men, those who had dedicated their careers to the belief in American technological dominance, began grappling with unsettling questions that offered no solace. What kind of technology could penetrate 1,000 meters of pitch-black water? Who had bestowed such an advantage upon the Soviets? Most crucially, how could they be thwarted? Surprisingly, the answer did not arise from the expected quarters. It was not the naval intelligence officers who had meticulously interviewed submarine commanders or scrutinized encounter reports with a magnifying lens. Nor did it come from the technical analysis teams at the Naval Research Laboratory, poring over captured Soviet equipment and testimonies from defectors. The exotic theories of magnetic anomaly detection and luminescence tracking proposed by defense contractors remained just that, theories, confined to the realm of conceptual drawings. Instead, the revelation surfaced from an unassuming junior signals intelligence analyst at the National Security Agency, whose routine examination of Soviet meteorological broadcasts led to an extraordinary discovery. Amid the mundane, a distinct pattern in radio traffic emerged, one that bore no immediate relation to submarine activity. On November 3, 1961, this analyst, whose identity remains classified, submitted a report to the Office of Naval Intelligence. 17 pages long, it contained intercepts and traffic analyses, culminating in a conclusion so staggering it seemed almost implausible. The Soviets were not employing advanced technology to track American submarines. They were leveraging weather data. This report landed on the desk of the same intelligence officer who had debriefed the commanding officer of a Growler just 7 months prior. The officer read the document twice. The first reading was tinged with the skepticism that arose from years spent sifting through countless dead-end theories surrounding Soviet submarine tracking capabilities. The second reading, however, ignited a dawning horror as the implications crystallized. The analyst had discerned a striking correlation between Soviet meteorological research vessels and the patrol areas of American submarines, an alignment too precise to be mere coincidence. These vessels, ostensibly engaged in routine oceanographic surveys under the auspices of the Soviet Academy of Sciences, exhibited operational patterns that anticipated Soviet naval responses to American submarine movements by 12 to 18 hours. The revelation reshaped the understanding of naval intelligence, unraveling a web of assumptions and igniting a race against time as the stakes escalated. In the shadows of the Cold War, the ocean's depths became a battleground, where the line between knowledge and ignorance blurred, and the quest for supremacy took on a new, unexpected form. Precision marked the unfolding events, each moment meticulously orchestrated within an intricate web of international maritime operations. The geographic correlation, stark and unmistakable, painted a picture that could not be ignored. Vessels, seemingly innocuous, transmitted an unceasing stream of meteorological data across standard international frequencies. Weather patterns, temperature readings, barometric pressure measurements, sea state observations, wind speed and direction. Routine information, accessible to any nation equipped with the necessary receivers, draped in normalcy, yet concealing an unsettling truth. Within this mundane data stream lay anomalies, subtle yet significant, that defied expectation. Fluctuations in reported sea surface temperatures emerged, discordant with satellite observations and nearby weather stations, contradicting the anticipated thermal gradients for prevailing sea conditions. An analyst, armed with keen insight, posited that these fluctuations were not mere errors, but rather coded signals, revealing the positions of submarines lurking beneath the waves. The intelligence officer absorbing this report grasped its implications with alarming clarity. If the analyst's theory held water, the Soviets had ingeniously woven a submarine tracking network into the fabric of a legitimate scientific program. These meteorological vessels transformed into clandestine intelligence platforms, their crews specially trained to detect the telltale signs of submarines, not through sophisticated sonar technology, but through the keen observation of surface effects generated by submarines operating at shallow depths. Scars marred the water's surface. Intricate patterns in wave motion, trails of bioluminescence shimmering in the darkness, and changes in sea surface texture wrought by subsurface turbulence told a story hidden from the untrained eye. These effects, transient and subtle, required only the meticulous scrutiny of trained observers armed with nothing more than binoculars and surface temperature probes. Once identified, the positions of these submerged leviathans could be encoded within the weather broadcasts, transmitted seamlessly to Soviet naval forces, all while operating under the guise of legitimate scientific inquiry. The brilliance of this tracking system lay in its audacity. It functioned in plain sight, devoid of classified technology and free from the constraints of international law. It was a masterstroke of deception. In response, the Office of Naval Intelligence assembled an emergency assessment team, a cadre of experts tasked with evaluating the NSA analysts' chilling theory. Oceanographers, meteorologists, signals intelligence specialists, and submarine warfare experts converged, dedicating 3 weeks to scrutinize every Soviet meteorological broadcast from the preceding 18 months. They meticulously cross-referenced these broadcasts with known American submarine patrol areas, delving into the temperature anomalies for statistical significance, crafting probability models to discern whether the correlation was mere coincidence. The findings were unequivocal. The correlation stood robust, unwavering. Each time a Soviet meteorological vessel reported a temperature anomaly in a specific location, Soviet naval forces materialized in that area within 24 hours. Similarly, whenever an American submarine signaled it was being tracked by Soviet destroyers, a meteorological vessel had been operating nearby within the preceding 48 hours. The pattern revealed itself with chilling clarity, an intricate dance of observation and deception that left no room for doubt. The implications rippled through the corridors of power, a stark reminder of the lengths to which nations would go in the shadows of the deep. The Soviets had transformed weather reports into a formidable weapon, wielding nature's elements with chilling precision. Behind closed doors, a technical team painstakingly reconstructed the intricate methodology employed by Soviet scientists, revealing layers of strategy that extended far beyond conventional warfare. Within the depths of the ocean, an irregular missile submarine prowled, submerged at a depth typically ranging from 100 to 300 feet. It moved silently, but beneath the surface, it was anything but inconspicuous. The vessel generated a thermal wake, a disruption in the ocean's expected thermal equilibrium, creating a ripple of warm water that... The submarine's hull, maintaining an internal temperature of approximately 68 degrees Fahrenheit, was heated by the hum of machinery, the flicker of electronics, and the metabolic output of 70 crew members confined in tight quarters. This warmth seeped into the water, though the heat transfer was minimal, elevating the temperature of the water in direct contact with the steel skin by a mere 1/10 to 2/10 of a degree Fahrenheit. Yet this subtle rise produced a trail of slightly warmer water, a ghostly contrail that lingered behind the submarine as it glided through the depths. Under ordinary ocean conditions, this thermal signature would vanish without a trace, camouflaged by the relentless wave action that would blend the warm water into the surrounding sea within moments. The ocean's thermal layers, each at varying depths, created a cacophony of background noise, effectively concealing any subtle temperature variations. But in specific conditions, when the seas were calm, with waves less than 1 meter high, clear skies allowing the sun to warm the surface layer, and wind speeds kept below 10 knots, the thermal scar could linger long enough to break the surface, detectable for 30 to 60 minutes after the submarine had passed. A trained observer equipped with a calibrated temperature probe could pinpoint this anomaly, a fleeting glimpse of the submarine's passage. More critically, they could trace its path, plotting a vector that revealed the direction in which the submarine had traveled. This vector offered Soviet naval forces a strategic advantage, enabling them to position themselves for a potential interception. However, this sophisticated system had its constraints. It thrived only in tranquil weather, demanded the submarine to maintain a shallow depth, and provided an approximate, rather than precise, location. Yet for the Soviets, these limitations were acceptable. Thermommunications and missile readiness. They navigated through designated zones, always within striking distance of Soviet targets. A meteorological vessel, Strategica submarine operations perilous. The Americans had operated under the illusion of invisibility, believing their submarines to be undetectable. Unbeknownst to them, the Soviets had simply learned to perceive the ocean's secrets through a different lens, exploiting nature's elements to their advantage. On November 28, 1961, the assessment team presented their groundbreaking findings to the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Submarine Warfare. The briefing unfolded in a secure conference room 3 levels beneath the Pentagon, where the weight of their revelations hung heavy in the air. Satellite photographs depicting Soviet meteorological vessels flashed on the screen, stark evidence of a new reality that would forever alter the landscape of undersea warfare. Maps unfurled across the table, Thurston told a story of silent encounters with American submarines lurking beneath the waves. The atmosphere was charged with tension as the analysts presented a meticulous statistical analysis, revealing a pattern that was anything but coincidental. This was a revelation that could shake the very foundation of naval strategy. In the midst of this intense exchange, recordings of Soviet weather broadcasts filled the room. The chilling cadences of the announcer intertwined with highlighted temperature anomalies, painting a vivid picture of the ocean's secrets. The deputy chief, an embodiment of stoic resolve, absorbed the information in silence, his mind racing with the implications. As the briefing came to a close, one question pierced the air, heavy with urgency. Could this be stopped? The answer hung in the air, uncomfortable and stark. Not easily. The Soviets had mastered the art of open ocean observation and unencrypted broadcasts, employing tactics that left American forces vulnerable. There was no technology to jam their transmissions, no facility to strike against their operations, no satellite to disable and disrupt their surveillance. The only viable countermeasure lay in a profound transformation of how American submarines operated. In the wake of this unsettling reality, operational changes were set in motion with remarkable speed. On December 5, 1961, the commander of Submarine Forces Atlantic issued a classified directive to all regular missile submarines. New protocols emerged, dictating patrol depths that would forever alter the nature of underwater warfare. No operations shallower than 400 feet in areas frequented by Soviet meteorological vessels. Revised patrol patterns emerged, meticulously designed to minimize exposure in regions where calm seas could enable thermal detection. Enhanced weather monitoring became paramount, a shield against the conditions that favored surface observation. Communications protocols shifted, aiming to reduce the time spent at periscope depth, a vulnerability now laid bare. The guidance, while explicit in its instructions, danced around the truth it could not openly acknowledge. American submarines were no longer the specters of the deep, unseen and untraceable. They needed to navigate their missions with the awareness that eyes were upon them. The USS Growler, docked at Pearl Harbor and preparing for a January 1962 patrol, was the first to feel the weight of these new protocols. The commanding officer gathered his crew, imparting the changes while shrouding the origins and strategic rationale in secrecy. As they absorbed the information, a sense of unease settled over them. Deeper operating depths demanded longer transits to patrol areas, draining precious battery power and necessitating more frequent snorkeling to recharge. With each adjustment came new challenges. The hull, engineered for moderate depths, now faced the strain of prolonged deep diving. Flexibility in tactical response dwindled as the need for rapid ascent to periscope depth became a luxury of the past. The crew understood that the game they were engaged in had shifted, the rules rewritten in ways they were not cleared to comprehend. They accepted these changes, embodying the resignation of seasoned sailors who had learned to navigate the murky waters of classified matters without question. In this delicate dance of strategy and secrecy, they were bound by the procedures that ensured their survival and the operational integrity of their vessel. The ocean whispered its secrets, and they were left to decipher the code, adapting to an invisible adversary that had changed the nature of their existence beneath the waves. In the shadows of the Cold War, a silent but profound transformation unfolded in the vast expanses of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. By April 1962, the Soviet Union unveiled a staggering increase of 40% in its fleet of meteorological vessels. This wasn't merely a numerical surge, it represented a strategic recalibration. No longer confined to traditional patrol zones, these vessels began to fan out across broader territories, venturing into the tumultuous embrace of rough seas. They pushed the boundaries of their detection capabilities, testing the waters and the limits of their technology. An intelligence analyst, immersed in the intricate webs of this maritime expansion, grasped the implications. The Soviets were not retreating. They were evolving. Aware that the Americans had pinpointed their tracking methods, they chose not to abandon them but to amplify and diversify their approach. A new kind of arms race had emerged, not one defined solely by technological advancements, but by the relentless pursuit of observational superiority. Each side meticulously sought out advantages, measured in minute fractions of degrees and the subtlest of shifts in wave patterns. In response, the Office of Naval Intelligence embarked on a thorough investigation, striving to unravel the origins of the Soviet thermal tracking technique. Their inquiries traced back to the oceanographic research conducted during the 1950s, spearheaded by institutes linked with the Soviet Academy of Sciences. These pioneering Soviet scientists, delving into the dynamics of Arctic oceans and the mysteries of submarine volcanic activity, had meticulously documented the thermal signatures birthed from geological heat sources on the ocean floor. Their findings were not cloaked in secrecy. Detailed papers circulated in Soviet scientific journals, available to anyone willing to look, including Western research libraries. Yet, during routine technical literature surveys, Western intelligence agencies had deemed them irrelevant to military applications, focusing instead on more conventional Soviet advancements in radar technology, acoustic research, and nuclear propulsion. The Soviets, however, interpreted their research through a different lens. They posed a provocative question. If volcanic heat could generate detectable thermal signatures, what about the heat emitted by submarines? This inquiry ignited a series of experiments, each one a stepping stone leading to operational techniques that would soon redefine naval warfare. By 1960, the Soviet Navy had meticulously trained observers, deploying them aboard meteorological vessels traversing both the Atlantic and Pacific. The cost of this program was negligible compared to the staggering investments required to develop advanced sonar systems. Yet, its effectiveness was undeniable, successfully compromising American submarine operations and establishing itself as one of the most potent intelligence initiatives of the Cold War. As the Soviets adapted, the American response began to take shape, evolving throughout 1962 and 1963. The United States Navy accelerated the development of the Polaris ballistic missile submarines, a direct answer to the shifting tides of naval warfare. A new chapter was unfolding, one where adaptation and innovation would define the future of military strategy on the high seas. These vessels, engineered for silent depths and swift maneuvers, surpassed conventional submarines in both speed and stealth. Their missile launch systems, a marvel of engineering, operated without the need for surfacing or even lingering at shallow depths. Hidden within the ocean's dark embrace, they evaded thermal detection, a feat that elevated their strategic advantage to unprecedented heights. In November 1960, the inaugural Polaris patrol commenced, a pivotal moment that marked the dawn of a new era in underwater warfare. By 1963, the Polaris fleet surged forth, fully operational and expanding with relentless momentum. The once reliable conventional submarines began to fade into obsolescence, not due to mechanical failures, but because the Soviets had adapted, learning to uncover what was meant to remain hidden. USS Growler, a stalwart of the fleet, completed her final deterrent patrol in May 1964, only to be decommissioned later that year. Her legacy transformed into a museum exhibit in New York City. Yet the crew who served aboard her remained in the dark, unaware of the full narrative that led to the cessation of their missions. They accepted the Navy's shift to a new system, embracing the change with the same unwavering resolve they had shown throughout their service. Questions lingered in the air, but they were met with silence, the knowledge of classified truths weighing heavily on their minds. Throughout the 1960s, the meteorological tracking program operated diligently, a facade under which Soviet vessels transmitted coded data, masquerading as innocuous weather reports. American intelligence, ever vigilant, monitored these broadcasts, piecing together insights into Soviet awareness of American submarine deployments. But as American submarines began to dive deeper and operational security tightened, the effectiveness of this program gradually waned. By 1970, advances in satellite reconnaissance provided the Soviets with superior methods for tracking submarines, rendering the meteorological vessels obsolete in their original role. They were repurposed for legitimate scientific research, while trained observers either retired or transitioned to other intelligence tasks. The program, once crucial, faded into the annals of classified history, its documents shrouded in secrecy for decades. Even today, many aspects remain undisclosed, cloaked in the shadows of governmental archives. The analysts who unearthed these insights, the scientists who crafted the methodologies, the sailors who executed the missions, most of their names will remain lost to time. Yet, their legacy endures, a pivotal lesson that would influence submarine warfare doctrine throughout the Cold War and beyond. Advanced technology, it became clear, does not guarantee invisibility. The simplest act of observation can dismantle the most sophisticated stealth. The ocean, with its vast expanse, reveals the movements of those who traverse its depths to any who possess the patience to seek out the subtle signs. Temperature fluctuations, bioluminescent glimmers, undulating wave patterns, acoustic signatures, magnetic anomalies, and radar reflections. Each submarine leaves behind traces, and every trace is vulnerable to detection by those with the right skills and the resolve to look closely. The question never lies in the realm of possibility. The true inquiry rests on whether the observer knows what to search for and possesses the patience to wait. The Soviets understood this intricately. They watched with unwavering diligence, uncovering American submarines that their planners believed were beyond detection. No advanced technology was necessary to reveal them. All it took was a keen eye and relentless vigilance. A profound understanding of the unseen battles beneath the waves was essential. Submarines, silent leviathans of the deep, disrupted the very environments they traversed, leaving a wake of confusion that rippled through the fabric of naval operations. Years later, a haunting irony would surface. As classified assessments emerged from the shadows of secrecy, military historians began to unravel the tangled web of deception woven by the Soviet Union. The meteorological tracking program, once hailed as a triumph, bore a fatal flaw, one that the Soviets never quite overcame. The thermal signatures detected by this program were indeed real, and the positional data it provided was accurate. Yet, a critical distinction eluded its grasp. The program could not differentiate between American and Soviet submarines. In moments of tranquility, beneath unclouded skies, a Soviet submarine generated the same thermal wake as its American counterpart. Compounding this dilemma, Soviet meteorological vessels occasionally relayed position data for their own submarines operating in the same regions. In a striking twist of fate, Soviet destroyers, acting on these reports, would track their own vessels, leading to a cascade of confusion within the Soviet Navy. Friends became foes, and the very instruments designed for protection turned against their own. This turmoil culminated in near misses, as Soviet destroyers pursued what they believed to be hostile submarines using active sonar, while those same submarines evaded their own surface ships. The irony deepened. The program, initially devised to compromise American operations, inadvertently compromised Soviet missions in ways that would remain unspoken in the halls of power. Through intercepted signals and the accounts of defectors in the 1970s, American intelligence unearthed these incidents of friendly fire. Yet the revelations remained cloaked in secrecy. It served no strategic purpose to disclose that a Soviet anti-submarine program had targeted its own fleet, but the analysts who pieced together this clandestine puzzle grasped the full scope of the situation. The meteorological tracking program had proven effective, a clever construct that, in its indiscriminate nature, blurred the lines between ally and adversary. The ocean, indifferent to allegiance, recognized only thermal wakes, regardless of their origin. The Soviets had crafted a weapon that could not discern friend from foe, and deployed it nonetheless, weighing the strategic advantage against the fog of tactical confusion. But the tides of warfare shifted. Satellites and advanced sonar technologies rendered thermal tracking obsolete. New submarines ventured into depths where surface observation held little significance. The Cold War arms race transitioned into uncharted territories, where novel techniques birthed new advantages. The story of the USS Growler, a once mighty vessel, faded into quiet obscurity. After her decommissioning, she found new purpose as a museum ship, nestled within the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum in New York. Visitors now wander through her cramped compartments, gazing upon the missile hangars that once cradled nuclear weapons. They read the placards detailing the Cold War deterrence patrols, Yet these narratives remain silent on the Soviet meteorological vessels and the intricate dance of thermal wake tracking that lay hidden beneath the surface. In the end, the ocean's secrets remain, echoing the past, a reminder of the delicate balance between power and vulnerability in the shadowy depths of the deep blue sea. To perceive it, the depths of the ocean, often perceived as an impenetrable fortress, hold secrets not merely in their shadows, but in the very fabric of their existence. As USS Growler and her sister vessels ventured into these waters, cloaked in the belief of their invisibility, they encountered a harsh reality. The ocean is a vigilant observer, chronicling every move, every ripple. The narrative of their operational demise unfolds not simply as a tale of technological failure, but as a testament to the intricate dance of human ingenuity against the backdrop of nature's relentless scrutiny. For years, the truth lay buried beneath layers of classified documents, the names of Soviet observers and the precise methods they employed to track American submarines shrouded in secrecy. Yet, the essence of their effectiveness is undeniable. From the late 1960s to 1964, Soviet forces honed a method of thermal wake detection, coupled with coded weather broadcasts that proved formidable enough to alter the very strategies of American submarine deployment. This revelation speaks volumes about the nature of warfare during the Cold War. It was not merely a contest of technological superiority, but rather a profound understanding of the environment in which these machines operated. The ocean was not a mere expanse to traverse. It was a complex ecosystem, an active participant in the cat-and-mouse game of underwater warfare. The Soviets, rather than relying solely on advanced sonar systems, leveraged a more profound comprehension of oceanographic physics. They recognized that every submarine, regardless of its stealth capabilities, left a trace, a whisper of its presence in the water. Through pressure waves, chemical signatures, and even the faintest bioluminescent disturbances, submarines unwittingly broadcast their existence to those equipped to listen. The very notion of invisibility became a deceptive veil, one that could be pierced by those who understood the ocean's language. Growler and her counterparts, despite their advanced technology, were ultimately ensnared by this simple yet profound truth. They were not alone beneath the waves. Eyes were forever watching, ready to decode the silent narratives of the deep. Arndt were as much about the ocean and its mysteries as they were about the machines of war. The passage of time, coupled with the declassification of archival materials and the candid accounts of former Soviet naval officers, illuminated a reality that had long eluded military historians. The Cold War was not just a race for technological dominance, it was an intricate ballet of observation, knowledge, and the relentless pursuit of understanding the world beneath the waves. In the end, the story of USS Growler serves as a poignant reminder of the ocean's omnipresence in the theater of war. Its depths hold not just water, but the memories and movements of everything that has traversed it. The ocean, with its vastness and complexity, is a living entity, one that remembers and reveals, waiting patiently for those who dare to listen. The legacy of Growler is not merely one of defeat, it is a testament to the enduring power of knowledge and observation, a legacy that resonates far beyond the confines of the Cold War. The lesson was clear, a revelation that would reshape naval doctrine forever. Once the veil was lifted on the meteorological tracking program, the United States Navy underwent a profound transformation in its approach to submarine stealth. No longer was the sole emphasis placed on merely minimizing acoustic signatures. the focus expanded to encompass the management of all observable effects. Thermal management systems emerged as pivotal innovations, meticulously designed to reduce hull temperatures, while specialized coatings were developed to diminish magnetic signatures. Operating procedures were redefined, crafted to avoid creating detectable patterns within the water column, ensuring that submarines could navigate undetected through the depths. The Polaris submarines embodied these advancements from their inception. Their capability to operate at greater depths granted them immunity from surface thermal detection, a significant tactical advantage. Moreover, the introduction of nuclear propulsion eliminated the need for snorkeling, effectively removing one of the most vulnerable aspects inherent in diesel-electric submarine operations. Yet the deeper truth loomed, a stark reminder that no submarine is entirely invisible. The critical question remained: does the enemy possess the knowledge and the patience to discern what the submarine reveals, however subtly? The Soviet meteorological tracking program did not conclude due to failure. Rather, it faded into obsolescence. By the dawn of the 1970s, satellite reconnaissance had matured to a point where it could deliver more reliable submarine tracking data than traditional surface observation methods. While American satellites could not directly detect submarines lurking beneath the waves, they adeptly monitored submarine bases, tracked surface vessels, and identified patterns in naval deployments that hinted at submarine operational areas. In response, the Soviets developed analogous capabilities, with both superpowers pouring billions into orbital reconnaissance. The once revolutionary meteorological vessels were reassigned to legitimate oceanographic research, their original purpose cloaked in secrecy. The details of their operations remained classified, locked away in vaults, with the analysts, scientists, and observers involved largely anonymous. Their contributions to the Cold War submarine competition documented only in files accessible to a select few. Yet, information has a way of surfacing, gradually emerging through the slow and often cumbersome processes of declassification review. As the strategic imperatives of secrecy began to wane, former adversaries showed a willingness to share their operational histories. This shift became more pronounced in the West. Russian naval officers began to publish memoirs and grant interviews to Western historians delving into Cold War maritime operations. Among these accounts, the meteorological tracking program emerged, recounted with varying levels of detail. It was portrayed as one of the more successful Soviet intelligence operations of the early Cold War, a program that, despite its modest cost and technical simplicity, achieved strategic effects that far outweighed its initial investment. The echoes of this intelligence endeavor serve as a reminder of the intricate dance of stealth, observation, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge that defined an era of profound geopolitical tension. In the depths of the Cold War, a silent battle raged beneath the waves, reshaping the strategic landscape of naval warfare. As the Soviet Union grappled with the formidable American submarine fleet, they found themselves compelled to adapt, altering their deployment strategies and hastening the transition to the Polaris system. Acknowledging the inherent limitations of their capabilities, Soviet scientists and naval officers took pride in their ingenuity, having developed countermeasures to what was once seen as an insurmountable American advantage. This was not merely a tale of technological prowess, it was a testament to the resilience of human creativity and intelligence. The Soviets proved that sheer technological inferiority could be surmounted through innovative tactics and keen observation. As the tides of information shifted, American documents began to surface, declassified in tandem with the revelations of Soviet achievements. The Naval Historical Center unveiled portions of the Spoke investigation files, which corroborated the Russian accounts, shedding light on the intricate web of intelligence and counterintelligence that defined this era. These files disclosed the pivotal role of an NSA analyst who first uncovered the telltale patterns in Soviet tracking efforts. They meticulously captured the assessment team's arduous task of deciphering the Soviet methodology, revealing how operational changes were enacted in response to this emerging threat. A startling realization dawned upon American intelligence. Their focus on advanced technology had led to a grave underestimation of Soviet capabilities, while their adversaries honed their skills through diligent observation. Yet the narrative was not without its complexities. The declassified documents also unveiled aspects of the Soviet tracking program that had been conveniently overlooked in their self-congratulatory recounting. It became evident that the Soviets struggled to distinguish between American and their own submarines, leading to instances where Soviet destroyers mistakenly engaged their own vessels based on errant meteorological reports. These miscalculations sowed seeds of confusion, resulting in near-miss confrontations beneath the ocean's surface. The story of the meteorological tracking program unfolded gradually, pieced together by historians throughout the 90s and early 2000s, as they meticulously cross-referenced American and Russian sources. This program, operational from approximately 1960 to 1970, achieved notable successes in detecting and tracking American submarines on numerous occasions, forcing American naval operations to adapt significantly. It illustrated a pivotal lesson. Under certain conditions, simple observational techniques could indeed triumph over advanced stealth technology. However, it also highlighted the limitations of such methods. The efficacy of these dependent systems hinged precariously on favorable weather conditions. Surface observations faltered when submarines dove into the depths, eluding detection. Furthermore, coded weather broadcasts remained vulnerable to interception and scrutiny by adversarial intelligence. While the program accomplished its immediate tactical objectives, it could not halt the sweeping strategic evolution towards deep-diving ballistic missile submarines that characterized the latter half of the Cold War. The USS Growler, a modest participant in this intricate historical tableau, represented one of 5 regular missile submarines that underscored the vulnerabilities inherent in shallow operations, marking a critical juncture in the ongoing maritime chess match between superpowers. As the waters churned with the weight of history, the lessons learned continue to resonate, reminding us of the delicate balance between observation and technology in the realm of warfare. In the depths of the Cold War, a silent battle raged beneath the waves, where the stakes were as high as the tension between superpowers. The story of the Growler, a formidable nuclear deterrent platform, reveals the intricate dance of technology, strategy, and the ever-present specter of surveillance. In 1961, her encounters with Soviet destroyers were not mere skirmishes. They were pivotal moments in an intelligence investigation that would expose a clandestine meteorological tracking program. These interactions propelled a critical understanding of the adversary's capabilities, highlighting the operational challenges that ultimately justified the swift deployment of the Polaris missile system. Decommissioned and transformed into a museum exhibit, the Growler now stands as a relic of a bygone era, inviting millions to step inside and envision the weight of duty carried by those who served on deterrent patrols. Visitors wander through the cramped quarters, imagining the tension of knowing that unseen eyes could be watching, waiting for a misstep. Yet, the placards adorning her exhibit tell a sanitized version of history. They speak of pioneering technology and the resilience of the crew, but they omit the uncomfortable truths: the Soviet meteorological vessels, the intricate thermal weight tracking, the unsettling realization that American technological superiority had been momentarily outmaneuvered by patient adversaries wielding nothing more than thermometers. The Growler's legacy extends beyond the confines of Cold War history, echoing into the present and illuminating the persistent challenges of modern submarine warfare. How does one navigate the vastness of an ocean that records every movement? Despite the leaps in technology since the 1960s, the fundamental laws of physics remain unchanged. A submarine, no matter how advanced, displaces water, generates heat, and creates pressure waves, all while disturbing marine life. Each maneuver leaves its mark, a silent testament to its presence. The question lingers: do today's adversaries possess the means to detect these traces? Current methods of submarine detection have evolved into a complex, multi-domain surveillance architecture, transcending the rudimentary techniques of the past. Satellite synthetic aperture radar now captures the faintest surface disturbances, revealing the subtle internal waves stirred by submerged vessels traversing thermoclines at depths previously deemed secure. Beneath the ocean's surface, intricate acoustic monitoring networks, composed of hydrophone arrays connected by fiber optic cables, now blanket entire ocean basins. These systems analyze the unique acoustic signatures of submarines, cross-referencing them with extensive databases of known sound profiles, weaving an intricate tapestry of detection that. Moreover, anomaly detection systems mounted on aircraft and unmanned underwater vehicles extend the reach of surveillance, identifying the magnetic signatures of submarine hulls from altitudes and depths that render visual detection impossible. The evolution of technology has reshaped the battlefield, but the essence of the struggle remains: the perpetual quest for stealth in a world where every ripple can betray a hidden presence. As we delve deeper into the layers of history, the Growler serves as a reminder of the unseen battles fought beneath the surface, echoing the complexities of a world where the line between safety and vulnerability is as fluid as the waters it navigates. The past, with all its hidden conflicts, continues to inform our understanding of the present, urging us to acknowledge the lessons learned from those who dared to venture into the depths. Biological monitoring systems serve as silent sentinels in the vast expanse of the ocean, unveiling the subtle shifts in marine life behavior that signal the passage of submarines. These systems meticulously track disturbances in whale migration patterns, the synchronized dance of fish schooling, and the delicate distribution of plankton, all indicators of recent submarine activity. Laser-based LiDAR technology now penetrates the shallow waters with an accuracy that would have seemed inconceivable during the tumultuous days of the 1960s. This advanced technology far surpasses the rudimentary methods employed by Soviet observers, who relied on thermometers aboard research vessels, scanning the ocean's surface for thermal anomalies. While the tools have evolved, the underlying principle remains unchanged. The ocean reveals its secrets to those who know how to decipher its language. The challenge lies in recognizing the signs and possessing the patience to observe. The United States Navy gleaned profound insights from the experiences of the Growler and her sister vessels. In the realm of modern submarine operations, the assumption is clear: no submarine can achieve complete invisibility. Instead, American submarine doctrine embraces a multi-layered approach to stealth, incorporating advanced techniques that render detection increasingly challenging. Acoustic quieting is achieved through sophisticated propulsion systems and meticulous machinery mounting, while magnetic signature reduction is facilitated by specially designed hull materials and strategic equipment placement. Additionally, careful management of heat emissions minimizes detectable signatures, and operational protocols are crafted to disrupt any patterns that adversaries might analyze. The objective transcends the pursuit of perfect invisibility, an elusive goal. Rather, it is about complicating detection to the extent that adversaries struggle to maintain reliable tracking. This strategy acknowledges a critical lesson learned by the crew of the Growler in 1961. The ocean is, in many ways, transparent to those equipped with the knowledge to see through it. Survival hinges on making that transparency as difficult to exploit as possible. Yet the narrative of the Growler is not solely about technology and tactics. It is profoundly human. The submariners who undertook deterrent patrols during those early years of the 60s volunteered for a duty that was not only psychologically taxing, but also fraught with the specter of potential doom. Weeks spent submerged in cramped quarters, each crew member bore the weight of carrying nuclear weapons, acutely aware that they might be tracked by enemy forces. The ever-present possibility of war loomed large, and with it, the grim reality that they might be called upon to launch their missiles, triggering events that could unravel civilization itself. In this high-stakes environment, the crew operated without complete understanding of the threats that surrounded them. The classified nature of the meteorological tracking program meant that they remained oblivious to why Soviet destroyers consistently located them. Despite their training and adherence to stealth protocols, the enemy seemed to appear at precisely the wrong moments, leaving the crew in a state of confusion. They continued their missions, driven by trust in the higher authorities who oversaw their operations, even as doubts lingered in the back of their minds. This trust, however, was not entirely warranted. The higher authorities lacked a comprehensive grasp of the situation until a national security agency analyst uncovered the underlying pattern that had eluded so many. The complex interplay of technology, human resolve, and the ever-watchful ocean had woven a narrative of uncertainty, one that would leave an indelible mark on the annals of naval history. As the shadows of the Cold War loomed, the depths of the ocean concealed more than just submarines. They held the weight of human courage, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of security in an age of unseen threats. In the shadowy corridors of Cold War naval intelligence, a perplexing enigma loomed. Mysterious Soviet tracking capabilities left American forces in a state of confusion, mirroring the bewilderment of submarine crews navigating treacherous waters. The response from U.S. institutions oscillated wildly, swinging from frantic witch hunts for imagined traitors to far-fetched theories rooted in exotic physics, reminiscent of science fiction tales. Yet, the truth lay not in elaborate conspiracies or groundbreaking technologies, but in a far simpler and more humbling reality. The Soviets, armed with their own oceanographic research, had posed fundamental questions and crafted straightforward observation techniques. In stark contrast, American intelligence fixated on the allure of sophisticated technology, blinded by its complexity. It was not a failure of innovation, rather, it was a failure of imagination. American strategists, entrenched in their belief that advanced systems were impervious to simpler solutions, overlooked the possibility that basic observation could unravel their intricate defenses. This cognitive bias is a recurring theme in military history, where the defender often assumes that costly, sophisticated systems inherently surpass their simpler counterparts. Meanwhile, attackers exploit these vulnerabilities, employing methods that defenders dismiss as too rudimentary to pose a threat. The Soviets' meteorological tracking program exemplified this phenomenon, thriving on simplicity. Weather vessels, broadcasting temperature data, drew no suspicion, cloaked in the guise of scientific inquiry rather than espionage. Soviet observers, armed with thermometers and binoculars, blended seamlessly into the fabric of legitimate research. The coded messages embedded within routine weather broadcasts were cleverly concealed in plain sight. American intelligence, while monitoring these transmissions, failed to analyze them for encoded submarine position data, dismissing the notion as implausible. The idea that the Soviets would utilize unencrypted weather reports for clandestine communication seemed too outrageous. Yet it was precisely this simplicity that rendered it effective. The final chapter of this saga speaks to the fragility of institutional memory and the perils of classification. For decades, the meteorological tracking program remained shrouded in secrecy long after its operational demise. This veil of classification obstructed submarine commanders from comprehending why their vessels had been tracked, hindered naval architects from grasping the signatures that required management, and stifled intelligence analysts from recognizing that similar tactics could resurface in future conflicts. While classification served legitimate security purposes, protecting sensitive information from potential adversaries, it also birthed an institutional amnesia. As the Cold War drew to a close and the program was declassified, many who had been pivotal in its execution had either retired or passed away. Their invaluable knowledge existed solely within dusty files, hidden from those who might seek it. The lessons learned had to be painstakingly rediscovered by historians, piecing together fragments of a narrative that had faded from memory. In the end, the story of the Soviet meteorological tracking program serves as a poignant reminder. Sometimes, the most profound insights arise not from the complexity of technology, but from the clarity of simple observation. It challenges us to reconsider our assumptions, urging a recognition that ingenuity often. In the shadows of modern military operations, a persistent challenge looms: the preservation of invaluable lessons learned from classified programs. These insights, forged in the crucible of conflict, often vanish into obscurity once the programs conclude, locked away by security protocols. Unless a concerted effort is made to document and share this knowledge, it risks being lost forever, leaving future generations to navigate uncharted waters without the wisdom of their predecessors. The saga of the USS Growler stands as a haunting testament to this phenomenon. Surviving tales emerged from a delicate balance of declassified documents and the brave recollections of Russian officers, allowing historians to piece together the intricate narrative of Cold War submarine operations. Yet, countless other missions remain shrouded in secrecy, their lessons trapped in vaults, inaccessible to those who could benefit from them. As the men who once commanded these vessels age or pass away, the institutional knowledge they carried begins to fragment, leaving behind a legacy of solutions to threats that may resurface but remain forgotten. Docked in New York, the USS Growler serves as a poignant reminder of this hidden history. Visitors meander through her cramped compartments, their imaginations ignited by the echoes of the past. They peer into the missile hangars, envisioning the tension that filled the air as Soviet destroyers materialized on sonar, appearing with alarming precision. They stroll past the crew berthing area, where men once slept in three-tier bunks, their minds racing with the fear that the enemy might be watching. Yet, as they explore, the deeper stories remain obscured. The narratives of meteorological tracking, thermal wake detection, and the NSA analyst who discerned patterns in weather data elude their grasp. These tales linger in declassified documents, academic papers, and specialized histories, texts few casual visitors will ever delve into. The public memory of the Growler is often confined to the broader themes of Cold War deterrence and the valor of submarine crews. However, the profound narrative of observation triumphing over technology, of simple methodologies conquering complex systems, remains hidden beneath the surface. This oversight is perhaps fitting, for the essence of the Growler's story revolves around that which lies in the shadows, waiting for an inquisitive mind to uncover it. In the depths, observers detected thermal signatures that eluded others. An astute NSA analyst recognized patterns in weather data that most ignored. Historians sift through declassified files, uncovering lessons that the public overlooks. Yet the submarine itself remains a beacon, accessible to all who enter the museum, concealing secrets that many will never fathom. This vessel embodies the paradox of submarine warfare. What appears invisible to the untrained eye is visible to those who know how to look. What seems impenetrable can be navigated by those who dare to ask the right questions. The ocean, in its vastness, keeps its secrets from those who lack the skill to listen, while revealing everything to those who possess the insight to seek. In this intricate dance of knowledge and obscurity, the true essence of the Growler and the lessons it carries awaits discovery, echoing through the annals of history for those willing to search. The realization that Growler was a nuclear ghost boat din from years of observation, analysis, and operational deployment. This intricate process involved countless individuals, their names forever lost to history, yet their contributions echo through the annals of Cold War strategy. In a parallel development, Washington too underwent a slow awakening. The understanding of how Moscow pinpointed American submarines emerged not from a singular breakthrough, but from a collective effort, a symphony of routine tasks that, upon closer scrutiny, revealed extraordinary patterns lurking beneath the surface. Both of these pivotal moments marked significant turning points in the theater of Cold War submarine warfare. They illuminated a profound truth. Triumph in the realm of technological competition demands more than superior machinery. It calls for a nuanced comprehension of how these machines interact with the physical realm, alongside a vivid imagination of how adversaries might exploit vulnerabilities that, until illuminated, seem insurmountable. The Cold War for USS Growler concluded quietly, a whisper rather than a shout. Her final patrol, the solemn ceremony of decommissioning, and her eventual preservation as a museum piece mark the end of an era. The crew, once bound by duty, dispersed to new assignments or embraced civilian life, while the regular missile program was quietly shelved. Yet, the insights gleaned from Soviet tracking practices were not lost. They were meticulously integrated into emerging systems and revamped operational protocols. What remains is a narrative consigned to classified files, stored away in vaults, fragments of history waiting for the day when security concerns diminish and historians can sift through the layers of secrecy. This is the nature of military history, accumulating not through grand revelations, but through the patient assembling of fragments, each piece contributing to a more complete understanding. The comprehensive narrative of Growler, reveals a submarine that was not merely technologically advanced, but also strategically vital, operationally vulnerable, and ultimately rendered obsolete. It showcases a crew that served with unwavering courage and professionalism, navigating challenges they could not fully grasp. It highlights adversaries engaged in a contest that transcended mere weaponry, relying on intelligence and skill to outmaneuver one another. The vast, opaque ocean, seemingly impenetrable, cannot conceal the movements within it from those who possess the patience to observe and the acumen to decipher what they witness. This lesson remains poignantly relevant today. While technology evolves at a breakneck pace, the immutable principles of physics endure. The ocean retains every secret, and somewhere, someone is still watching.